Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Falcon, number SC61. This is a door closer is what it is. You may also know this as DOR-MATIC, a DOR-MATIC SC61. It's, in my estimation, it's just been a marketing shift from DOR-MATIC to Falcon. The closers, the exit devices that were DOR-MATIC are now branded Falcon. The DOR-MATIC low energy operators are branded, some of that is branded LCN, or maybe all of it became part of the LCN product offering. That's life in the big city with multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporations. They're constantly shifting and evolving the way that they bring product to market and how they arrange those different pieces to best suit the requirements that they have. And it's the same closer, just has a different name on it. That's typical in our industry. So this is what I would call a modern door closer. I wouldn't use traditional, even though it is a traditional closer. Like if you see a closer that's, skinny and narrow and long like this, that traditional closer, the one you see all the time. Well, the term traditional to me would mean closers probably from the 1920s and 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And I would call this a modern style door closer, even though this design and shape has been around for decades itself. This is the ubiquitous design that you're going to see in countless applications. This design would probably be considered the standard duty, not the heavy duty. We probably would think of the heavy duty as a much larger body, cast iron or aluminum, whereas the standard duty would be one that would look like this. It would literally look all but indistinguishable to this. And the only difference between this exact modern closer and other exact modern closers will be the size, meaning the length, the distance from this hole to this hole, and the way that it is built based on the spring that's inside of here, and then the features that it would have. How many valves are built into the closer body that you can control, that you can use to control the closing cycle of the door. So the bottom line is, if you have a closer that looks like this, it's probably this one, meaning maybe not the SC61 DOR-MATIC Falcon, but this exact closer designed by countless other people. So if you've got a closer that you're replacing, Falcon, DOR-MATIC, or not, this is very likely a very potential replacement for that. And what you're going to be looking for immediately, the most important thing with this closer, and when customers call, hey, I need a closer, and they'll send me a picture of it. Okay, great, I know what you need, but now I need the dimensions. And okay, well, what do you need me to measure? Here's what I need you to measure. The center of this hole to the center of this hole. If it's 9 1/16, this is it. Is it going to be larger? Maybe. LCN may have had a closer that looked an awful lot like this, but may have been longer. I don't recall. The 1070 series may have been that. But you'll certainly have the same style of closer smaller. 8 13/16, maybe even smaller. And the differences there are different spring rates, or there are fixed spring rates, or smaller spring rates within the closer itself. Okay. So, will this be a replacement for what you have? Very likely. Is it 9 1/16? Center to center? If it is, then yes. 3/4 center to center would be the vertical. That will be typical and common. What this closer is going to give you is some features. This closer is going to give you an adjustable spring power, which is governed here, that arrow. You'll insert a Allen wrench into that and rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise should you need to. This will come prepped, set from the factory for a typical size door. We'll go over that. Over on this side, there are two valves. One that's called L and the other that's called S. That's latch and sweep. In your mind's eye, think 0 to 90 degree. In your mind's eye. Now go 0 to 15 degree. That's L for latch. And then 16 to 90, well, maybe 80. That's sweep. So when you're closing, the S valve controls out here, and the L valve controls in here. You can have control over those two spaces. This also has, and we skipped over a valve, the BC, the back check valve. In your mind's eye now, go from 0 to about 70 degree. Don't quote me, but about that. And then from 70, say, to 120. The back check is the opening cycle from about 70, 75 degree out to about 120. And the back check is meant to arrest the uncontrolled, aggressive swing of the door. Nice open, I'm pushing it open. The wind catches it. Here we go. And it moves really quick. The back check is meant to arrest that here we go part. And if you take a door with this on it and you open it and then you get to 50 degrees and then you start to move it quickly, you'll notice the back check valve kicks in. So very appropriate for exterior doors that swing out. Very appropriate. You would definitely want that there. It's not a limiter. It's not a dead stop. It's just meant to help arrest, slow it down. So that's all the valves. But one thing I want to point out to you is these funny little doodads on these sides of the valves. The little doodads mean that the valves have been staked. They've staked those valves. What does that mean? It means it will prevent you from backing out that valve needle so far that when you cycle the door, the fluid will build pressure and then push. Well, it will move fluid, and then it will build pressure and push that valve needle out, oil on your shirt. I remember doing it the first time. I remember. I was adjusting a closer, kept going, cycled the door, and bing, the valve went bing across the floor. Nice amount of oil down my shirt. It was the beginning of the day, naturally. So we did sit in that wet shirt the rest of the day, unfortunately. And it was oil, not water. I can't tell you what type of oil they would use in these, but it's a viscous, liquid. So they're staked to keep people that haven't yet learned the hard way from removing that. But it's also to help keep people from removing it who haven't read the installation instructions, because it will tell you. Be mindful. Don't thread it out so quickly. Let's do a visual tour of the rest of the closer. This is going to have a standard regular arm. This part of the arm is called the main arm, from the elbow down to where it will connect to the shaft on the closer. Then the forearm with your rod shoe. So think of the main arm and then the forearm. It's the same sort of concept that you're dealing with here. Okay? Same sort of concept. Why is that important? Because it helps us define the different parts of the arm. This is the rod shoe. This is the forearm. This is the main arm. This is, how we discuss that. This closer is what we call tri-packed, meaning it will come right from the factory, ready to be installed, one of three ways, one of the three primary ways, most common ways. There's other ways to mount a door closer, but you're not going to really bump into it. You can. But you probably won't be. This is a parallel arm bracket. This will allow you to install the closer in a parallel arm fashion. The regular arm can be installed, you guessed it, in a regular arm fashion, but also a top jam mount, so it's tri-packed. Those other methods of mounting a closer, just to fill that in a little bit, there are corner brackets or jam brackets that would be installed to the jam. The closer body is attached to that, and then the arm goes to the door. Why would you need that? Well, you have an arched top door, or you have a pair of doors that are arched top or radius topped. That's why you would need that. You have nowhere to attach. And I'm laughing because I've seen people put pieces of wood on a door and build brackets and attach it, and they figured it out and they got it attached. But when you move that closer to the jam, that would be an alternative way of mounting it, a secondary way, of mounting it. The tri-pack is illustrative of the three primary ways to install a closer. Each of those three primary ways can have specific arms or a family of specific arms that cater to each of the three installations. Not so much the top jam. Oh, no, that's not true. There are arms that will do a top jam. You can also do, some manufacturers do a heavy-duty regular arm. So for regular arm, there's different arms for that. For parallel arm, there's different arms for that. For top jam, there can be different arms for that. But this platform is extremely generic and highly universalized. So that if you're looking at this closer and it's 9 1/16, and you can tri-pack, it comes tri-packed and you can mount it any of the three ways.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
I didn't ask you to listen. you should be able to solve your problems, right out of the box. Having one or two of these closers or whatever as shop stock for a last minute. Hey, we got to go change out a closer. I have, closers at the tip of my finger right there that are just, shop stock. Someone comes in. These are common closers that are ready to go over the counter because of how common they are. After that, you're going to get a plastic cap for the part of the pinion, the shaft or the spindle that you're not going to use. The other part the arm will attach to. And of course your fastener package, everything that you're going to need to do a wood door, a metal door, and then a sex bolt application. So really, out of the package, this SC61 is ready to go. So I had talked earlier about heavy duty and standard duty. This is considered standard duty, but wait, this closer is grade 1 rated, which means it's been given, because it's passed, the highest grade rating that the industry has created to date, 1 million cycles. This closer has been cycled 1 million times and found to operate faithfully, at least 1 million cycles without failure. Who knows how many cycles it could go to? Probably, if it was used once a day, it could probably go to millions of cycles. So you have a grade 1 closer that's universal pack that will go on most every opening, and it's grade 1 rated. So it's the same as a heavy duty closer. So lots of bang for the buck on this closer. A couple other versions of this closer, or a couple other closers from Falcon as well, variations on this same theme. One's going to have a different body style, the other's going to have a cover, that kind of thing. This does not feature a cover, so if you needed a cover for this, Dormatic, meaning Falcon, can oblige to cover that off, but you generally won't see that. Where are you going to see this closer? Everywhere. Commercial applications, your coffee shops, your retail, your fast food restaurants, they all have these. Why are they a good idea? They're cheap, they're easy to install, they're ubiquitous. When it's grade 1 rated, it's hard to argue outside of personal experience and preference why you wouldn't use this. You could certainly have someone who makes a living installing door closers. They've been doing it forever. They're not going to learn any new tricks because their life experience has been the best teacher. It's told them, I don't like this closer. I'm always replacing those. This closer I like because it works. So outside of predefined, pre-arrived at conclusions about one closer versus another, this could be a tremendous candidate in all applications. There's a brand name that people love that I've had the worst luck with, and I won't use it unless I have to, because for some reason I just have bad luck with it, and I shouldn't, but I do. It's not MATIC or Falcon, or LCN for that matter. That covers everything in the box. Let's switch now to the screen view. Well, covers everything except the installation instructions. Let's switch to the screen view now, and let's look at those installation instructions. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Here is the closer that we are looking at. Let's take a look at some photographs that we have of it. There's the box, size 1 through 5. That really lends to it being a very aggressive closer in the sense of it being able to work on very light, very narrow, to very heavy and very wide, tall doors. There's everything in the box. I personally like plan view, I suppose. Spring adjustment, back check valve, latch and sweep valves. I personally like the horizontal nature of arms rather than round arms. I believe this design is proven to be very effective at being long-lasting and durable. Okay, I don't see a lot of these arms bent. The rest of your components, your installation instructions, your copious screw package, lots of fasteners there. You're not going to use nearly all of those, that's for sure. Don't get overwhelmed by that. You'll have some extra screws left over. And then, of course, the cap. That plastic cap is going to end up either here or on the other side. The arm is going to connect here and the cap will go on the other side, depending on whether it's top jam or regular arm. You know, if it's top jam, you won't see the cap. If it's regular arm, you will see the cap. Parallel arm, you will see the cap as well. So extended description information, that's here. Grade 1, you know, narrow to very wide doors. All weather fluid. That means that this fluid inside of this closer will remain viscous at low temperature. 10-year warranty. Can't shake a stick at that. The R1943 is a number that's on the closer. Sometimes clients will call and say, yeah, I need an R1943 closer. There you go. This is it. Well, not necessarily. We do need to still do our due diligence, because that is the record locator at the factory when they conducted the UL fire test on it. Cut sheets, mounting style, full catalog template. Let's knock those out. The cut sheet, not much to see here except that it's just going to give you an overview of the closer. I mentioned that you can do a cover. You can with this SC60 series. The template, we're going to get to that when we look at the installation instructions, but this is the quick, you know, who, what, when, and where of the size of the footprint. Regular arm, top jam, parallel arm. Mounting style, we're going to talk about this when we get to the installation instruction. This is the 3 ways illustrated right here. If you are learning about door closers, you need to possess a working knowledge of these 3 methods of mounting. You'll elect the proper closer and arm combination and spring size, depending on the application. Then we have the full catalog. That we'll talk about later. This is an older version. And the fact that it's an older catalog is not really any, never mind. The line has evolved to a certain extent, but not so that this is rendered substantially out of date. You know, the SC70 is going to be considered that heavy-duty version. The SC80 is going to be that narrow version that I think has a 12-inch center on the screw holes, or maybe it's 11 1/8, I forget, but it's almost a foot, if not a foot. The SC60 with the optional closer. The SC90, that's where your holes are going to be closer together. That would be a residential version, and then overhead stuff that they're going to have available. And you can scroll through here and do an overview of the MATIC Falcon line. That's what that SC70 is going to look like. That larger body. When you get to the SC, there you go, the SC80, yeah, 12-inch center. So if you have a closer that's long and narrow, 12-inch, it would be the SC80. So you have a closer, you want to replace it, which one do you need? Here's what you do. Does your closer body look like this? Look like this? You get the point. Or look like this. It's probably, these 3 closers are almost everything that you'll encounter, with this one, the SC60 being the most common. Now you'll note that there are different arms that are available. The SC70 will have, because it's heavy duty, different arm types available. A dead stop with a hold open, a dead stop, a hold open, just a heavy duty parallel arm, and then their regular arm. I'm quite confident in saying that these arms are compatible on all of the closers. So you can throw a dead stop hold open on this SC60 should you want to. Now, the scrolling through, additional overview of the arms, talking further about the standard cylinder. This is not a delayed action cylinder. Delayed action will allow you to slow the closing cycle down from about 120 down to the latch portion of the closing cycle, about 75 degree. The logic of slowing it down from 120 or so further down is giving someone time to get through the opening, the handicapped. And that's what a delayed action will do. There will be another valve on the closer. However, the standard closer can be set to be thoroughly compliant with handicap or ADA regulations in terms of the amount of time is permitted for the door to go from full open down to maybe 10 degree of close. I forget exactly what the code states. You know, that's just a reference back to the document to know what that is. But this closer is fully handicap compliant. Also, because it has an adjustable spring so that you can reduce the opening force down to the threshold permitted. Customer supplied photos here. There's a closer with a back check. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, back check. You're right. And there you go. Now let's tackle the document that we have all been waiting for, and that's the installation instructions. There's 5 pages on this one. There's generally 4. Let's see where they're wasting a page. Summary, okay. Pull side, push side, parallel arm. Oh, okay, this document. This document doesn't count for anything. I don't know why it's here. It must have, this is an internal document. So there are 4 pages. There is always a summary page, regardless of it being Falcon or LCN or 100 other people. That a good summary page is going to define the valves, which we've already defined. It's going to tell you, here's what's in the box. Okay? They don't tell us what arm is in the box, but it's understood that they then break down the different mount types. Regular arm, they call it pull side. Top jam, they call it push side. They call the push side parallel arm, they just call that parallel arm. Parallel arm, top jam, and regular arm. I would refer to those by their given names, not by this denuding of the terminology. You know, if you tell someone you want a push side arm, they're probably not going to think top jam. So you're going to use this to determine which mount style am I going to employ, or which mount style am I matching. You then go to one of the next 3 pages, and that's where 4 pages comes in. Summary, and then 1, 2, 3. Let's just say we're doing parallel arm. It doesn't really matter what we're doing. Which mount style we are using for example. And what I mean by that is this. Every time that you install one of these closers, you are always going to have a dimension from the vertical center line of the hinge to the first hole. The degree of opening is going to define that. The closer you move the body to the hinge, the further open the door will go. Every one of the mount types will have these dimensions. You just need to look for that on that individual page. What will change, depending on the mount type, is what side of the door closer body is pointed towards the hinge. And I'm looking to see where they have that illustrated. Okay. Install closer onto door. BC faces towards the hinge edge. So the side of the closer that has back check on it, when you're doing a parallel arm, that's the side towards the hinges. If we were to scroll up to the top jam side, this is a top jam mount. I'm looking for that same information, forgive me. Okay, they are clearly indicating in the images here that you've got these 2 vertical valves. This is back check, that's power adjustment. They go away from the hinge. So it's opposite the way that the parallel arm is. And then I think you'll find that the regular arm is the same as the parallel arm. If this line art drawing is accurate, the power and the back check go away from the hinge. Is that correct for parallel arm? Yeah, back check faces towards the hinge edge. On the regular arm mount, Forgive me, I said that wrong. The regular arm and the top jam are the same. So the back check is away from the hinge on those two, and then the parallel arm, it's towards the hinge. I knew that. I screwed it up. I apologize. Once you have this defined, you're going to be able to mark your holes. This is from the soffit, the 3 1/8, and the soffit is this. You have your header, lots of terms on a frame. That's the return. If it's like this, then it's called a backbend return. That's the face. That's the rabbit. That's the stop face. Stop face, rabbit, face, return. That's the soffit. This. So that 3 1/8 is measured from the soffit. So now you know where to put your holes. This far over, this far down. The rest of the holes are going to fall in line. And then you have the same relationship from vertical axis of pivoting to where you're going to locate that first hole here for the parallel arm bracket. You use that same logic as you go through to mount all of these closers. They're always going to give you that first dimension, that table. You'll see how drastically it changes based on the mount type. This is, 80% greater than the parallel arm. And for the regular arm, it's more in alignment with parallel arm, actually. But going through the steps on all of these, there is always going to be a table. Here's the table for parallel arm. Here's the table for top jam. Here's the table for parallel arm. So once you get the closer physically attached, and it's hard to screw it up because you'll take the screws and you'll separate them like this. There's one screw in here that's not listed, and that's the screw that holds this screw right here that holds the arm onto the spindle. That will be obvious. It'll be the only screw in there like that. I had said earlier about adjusting the tension. You first need to determine, do I need to change it at all? You probably don't, most likely. And if you're doing the regular arm mount, this is set to a 3-foot wide door. If you have a 42-inch wide door, turn it clockwise 6 times, and so on. If you go to a top jam mount, it's set for a 3-foot door. If you have a 42-inch door, turn it clockwise 6 times. That's all the same. If you have a parallel arm, it's the same. If you have a handicap application, turn it counterclockwise 12 times. That will really lighten down the spring power on it. And be mindful, it was said to me by Falcon's sister company LCN, Giles, who I believe is recently retired. He's forgotten more, I think, about door closers than people have ever learned. He said, with a reduced opening force comes a reduced closing force. So think in your mind's eye a spring. Not season. Mechanical equipment. Okay, so here. This is probably not unlike what that spring looks like. If I were to compress this substantially to where I collapsed the space between all of these, you know that that's going to want to come back out quite rapidly. But if I only compress this a little bit, there's not much for it to move back to its natural state when it relaxes. So that's where a reduced opening force is going to give you a reduced closing force. What that means is you turn that spring down far enough, the door may not close. That's just science on the spring. So be mindful of that. What would cause that? Air pressure in a building, windy conditions, things of that nature. Now, once we have gone over where to mount it, how to adjust it, it's physically attached. You know what end of the closer to put towards the hinge. The last thing to do is to just adjust the valves if necessary, and that will be back up here. Okay, you probably don't need to adjust them at all, but if you do, make adjustments in like half rotations only, 180 degrees, or maybe one rotation. Cycle the door 2 or 3 times so that the fluid can balance, and then you can judge if you need to change it at all. I would think you don't have to change the back check at all. You may want to slow down or speed up the sweep. You may want to slow down or speed up the latch, depending on, meaning the rate at which it moves, the door is moving, depending on your environmental conditions, how windy it is, etc. But right out of the box, it's probably going to work perfectly. There is an Allen wrench included for this. There are sex bolts in here as well, which they refer to here as through bolts. I would keep those if you don't use them. Those cost money to have to buy, and if you do door closer work, it's a matter of time before you'll need some. So that's how simple door closers are. Let's wrap up this video on camera, but before we do so, below this video here is a link to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up all the MATIC products that we sell and the accessories. Because MATIC is a name that's been sunsetted, going to go to manufacturers and then do a find function on your keyboard for Falcon, and then you'll find the current Falcon catalog. Now the other name that you may know that's under the Falcon umbrella is Monarch. Exit devices, they're 17, 18, XX, 19, 17, 18, 19, XX. I think that was all of them. Those are now all under the Falcon, not all of them. The 17 and 18 and XX are discontinued, replaced by the 24 and 25. The XX crossbar is not was not replaced by anything, except Von Duprin has their 88 design. So there's the Falcon catalog. If you wanted to look at old Monarch stuff, again, back to the manufacturer's page, Control F for Monarch, and you'll find it right here. And then what documentation we have is here on Monarch. Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. In conclusion, nice quality product from Falcon. They keep it awfully simple. Their technical support that you'll talk to when it comes to door closers or exit devices is really top-notch. These people are extremely skilled, trained, talented, agreeable, helpful, invested in the process. It's cultural at Allegion when it comes to Schlage and LCN and Von Duprin, Glenn Johnson, Falcon, obviously, Ives, Zero, weather stripping over from Allegion. Just had a very long, pleasant conversation with the lead technical gentleman at Zero. Just people that have done it their entire life, and you just need help, and they're the people to call. Anyway, if you have any questions on the Falcon, SC61 closer, or any other Falcon product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.